What's going on, everybody? How we doing out there? I see we got everybody in here already. Fantastic. Let's get it going. Mark, how you doing? La Diamond Dog. Lisa, thank you for being here. Sandra, how you doing? Hola. Great to have you here, Lady Ann. Becky, what's going on? How we doing? All right, we got a great one today. We're going to kick this off. Going to be super interesting, I think. Very cool. And we are going to take a tour here of some very cool leadership laws and secrets of leadership that have gone on through history from ancient times all the way to today, from ancient times all the way to the AI era. And so we're going to get this going. And as always, put any questions you have in the chat and we will get to them. It's great to have you guys here on a Sunday, 4 p.m. As always, 4 p.m. Eastern time, every Sunday, every Thursday. Check that now, every Friday. We're going to be going on Fridays now at 6 p.m. So every Friday, 6 p.m., every Sunday at 4 p.m. And let's get this party started and get going here. I hope everyone's enjoying their Sunday, and we're going to do this. So tonight we're pulling proven leadership laws from the greatest leaders across business, sports, and history, all the way from ancient Greece to the AI age, okay? And really my intent is that after today, you can leave with 10 proven moves that you can use Monday morning, you can use this week, a clearer mission, tighter communication, faster decisions, and therefore better results. That's the whole point of today. So we're going to get this business leadership going. Hey, what's going on, Steve? Great to have you aboard. Congratulations for signing up for bronze. That's awesome. But we're going to get this going. Hey, Phoenix, how you doing? Thanks for being here. It is a little bit of Lombardi time. That's right. That's a great one. I'll have to see. What I got in here. May have definitely some great leaders throughout time in here. Again, like I was saying, from ancient Greece all the way to the AI age. And it's great to have you guys here. And we are going to get this going. So, number one, the first thing we're going to talk about right now that is so important. Like I always say, what do you want in life? Because if you're trying to create change, if you're a leader and you don't know where you're going, you're going to end up anywhere. This is how it is. So with that, clarity. Clarity is everything. Clarity leads to more confidence, leads to more focus, leads to more efficiency, all these things. So the number one first lesson we're going to talk about here, okay, is mission clarity. Also the commander's intent. And we're going to talk more about that later too. But right now, mission clarity. The core idea is this. If the mission isn't simple and if it's not vivid, nothing else matters. It really doesn't matter. Okay? For example, if you're telling someone what you want done, but it's not clear and you muddle it all up and you're not clear with your tasking and then what the mission is and the bigger reason why you're doing it, this is what we'd always talk about in the Marine Corps. You're going to fail. And guess what? That failure is also on you too, okay, as a leader, because message sent does not mean message received, as you guys know. Hey, Lisa, how you doing? Great to have you here. Message sent does not mean message received. And therefore, as a leader, you have to follow through. You have to be the one to follow through and to make sure people actually know what it is that you're trying to get across, okay? So let's go ahead and look at this a little bit. A modern idea of this is Satya Nadella, okay? He's from Microsoft. Microsoft CEO is Satya Nadella. He reframed Microsoft's mission as empower every person and every organization within the Microsoft umbrella, okay? Then he wanted to align his product bets and his culture. Here's one of the reasons why. Microsoft is known to hire some of the best people out there, all right? So once you get the best people on your team, you worry about the culture they operate in, all right? Because the culture will dictate what the normal behavior is, what you will do and what you'll never do, what you'll always do, what you'll never do. What are the rules that you guys live by? What's the implicit communication? It means things you're going to do and say and know, you're going to know it just internally, all right, organically, you're going to know intrinsically without having anyone tell you, okay? So they're hiring the best people possible, and therefore the CEO for Microsoft right now, Satya Nadella, is saying to empower every person and every organization, all right? Next, Nick Saban. Everyone knows Nick Saban. If you're a football fan, Alabama, amazing, legendary coach who recently retired with, I can't remember how many championships he's had, but he had a lot of them, all right? Alabama was always at the top under Nick Saban's tenure at Alabama. And Nick Saban would talk about the process. And what is the process, okay? Well, I've spent some time around football a bit, and I've got some of my friends who are professional coaches, also in the NFL. One's an NFL head coach and had actually worked for Nick Saban. And one of the things that he would talk about, he'd actually worked for Nick Saban and Bill Belichick before, but what Nick Saban would talk about, Belichick talks about this too, is the fact that you never can look past a practice, and you can never look past a practice period. Let's pull that out a little further. Never look past a game, never look past a practice day, never look past a practice period. So we're getting very micro, okay? This process that was Nick Saban's really was about crystal clear wins at the level of today's execution. So I want you guys to think about, how does this impact you? How would this matter for you, okay? What are the crystal clear wins that you have to have for today's execution? Because I guess what? Like I've said before, the tyranny of the day, if you let today slip by and you didn't accomplish something to move you closer to your goals, then you didn't accomplish something to move you closer to your goals, right? It's not the end of the world, but you're going to lose time. Now, if you're in a time competitive environment like a football season or in business, you may lose a customer, a client. You may lose the game, all right, because you didn't get done what needed to get done. It's a very competitive environment because, you have to worry about the defense. You got to worry about the offense. You got to worry about special teams. You got to worry about running the exact killer plays the other team has, scouting, all those things like that, okay? Injuries. So it becomes very time compressed. You think you have all week, but you really don't. You don't have that much time. And plus, you got to rest these horses, right? You got to rest the players. So that's why, again, the philosophy is, and we can adapt this to our own lives as leaders and our own personal life, but then especially as you lead, whatever you lead, your family, you lead yourself, you lead your team at work, right? You lead up. You might have to lead your boss and lead them up a little bit and help. That's a very delicate thing to do. It takes a lot of skill to do that and be effective at it. But never look past a game, never look past a practice, never look past a practice period. That's the process, right? Now, and he had other deeper areas in the process as well. I'm just dumbing it down. Now, we're going to take a look at a historical example here, okay, that I think is really important. We're going to take a look at the historical example of Alexander the Great, okay? And so Alexander the Great was known to have conquered the known world, okay? He conquered the known world by the time he was 19. So think about that, right? This is a world conqueror by the time he's 19, okay? And he's had a lot of success. And so how did he do this, though? This is the question, is that how did Alexander do this? All right? How was he able to conquer the known world? This is the big thing. So we're going to take a look at what are some of the things Alexander would talk about. Well, one of the things he was known for was putting the why before the how, okay? He would always put the why before the how. And what did that mean exactly? Okay? Really what it meant is that he was a visionary. He would create a vision and he would make sure that in this vision, okay, that everybody understood where they were going. The simple aims that he made would travel thousands of miles and through dozens of languages because of his vision. And he had this vision, okay? And so he framed every campaign around a grand purpose. Every campaign he framed was around a grand purpose. And it was never just, something where, people didn't know the deeper reason why they were doing things. Okay. This was truly deep level commander's intent. All right. And so one of the things he gave them for a purpose was the unification of the known world, spreading the Greek culture, another one, achieving immortal glory, which was a big thing back then, right? Because you're living in that age and that time. These visions, these words, living forever, immortality was something that was very powerful to motivate people. And so, before he ever spoke of how they were going to do it, Alexander would talk about all the time the purpose and the vision. All right? All these benefits to them, he would talk about. What is the greater benefit? Before he ever spoke of how. In other words, Alexander was a salesman. Okay, he was a salesman. He sold the vacation. He sold the vision, not the crossing of the deserts, not the death, not the disease, not the hardship, but the vision of eternal glory. Okay, so if any of you have ever been around sales, you want to tell people what the benefit is, right? First, you want to talk about the benefit of the transformation, about what's going to happen when they get this car, what's going to happen when they purchase this insurance policy, what's going to happen. You don't want to tell them, for example, if you're selling a vacation, you don't want to say, okay, well, first, you're going to get on the airplane. Then you're going to go through TSA, and boy, that's going to suck. But after you go through TSA, you're going to be in the airport. And you could buy a donut if you want and get some coffee, right? That's going to be cool. But then it's really going to suck again because then you got to take this long flight, and the flight's really bad, and you're going to be crowded in there. But then at the end, you're going to have the vacation, right? So you don't do that as a visionary. You go ahead and you sell the vacation, right? That's what Alexander was doing. He was a great salesman, and he would actually sell the vacation. In other words, he was a visionary. He would say, okay, we are doing world-changing conquest. We're taking our place in history if we do these things. One of the quotes from Alexander was, there is nothing impossible to him who will try, okay? And this example, when they crossed the Hindu Kush mountains, okay, here's an example. Something no sane general would have tried at the time, but his men understood the greater purpose. And therefore, they kept in mind, we are doing world-changing conquest, okay? We're doing world-changing conquest. We're actually going to take our place in history. He's talking about immortality and all these things like that. And this is really appealing to me because I know in my young life, I'm going to die anyway. So this is the guy. This is the guy that's taking me all the way, okay? So I see you, Becky, in there. So this is really important. Again, the number one rule right now, mission clarity. You got to make sure the mission is simple, it's clear, it's vivid. You have a vision tied to it. They understand the why behind the overall tasking, what you're trying to get done, and the bigger reason why. If you can be clear on that, you can be a visionary like an Alexander the Great. But people have to understand why they're trying to accomplish what they're accomplishing, and mission clarity is what's going to do that. Okay. Number 2, the next one, communication. Okay. You really can't have any leadership. You're not going to be a leader if you can't communicate properly. Okay. Communication is really everything. Leadership is the art of influence, and really the art of influence has so much to do with communication. Just like I said with the visionary leadership and shaping the mission and giving the vision behind it, you have to communicate that. So every interaction deposits or withdraws credibility. You have to understand that when you're communicating as a leader. Modern day example of this, Indra Nooyi, okay? He's direct human communication. His great involved leadership of Pepsi, steered them through huge portfolio shifts. He was steering through all these different issues, okay? And this came from the CEO all the way down. And he made sure that he had direct human communication, was, gave that extra touch that only a leader can do to make sure that the vision is very clear. And so you're seeing that with Pepsi, right, as they go through some transformation. Next, in sports, if you guys remember Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh was the legendary coach of the San Francisco 49ers. And something he would do is he would try to quiet the chaos. Okay, this is also an operational tactic, but he communicated his competency, his certainty, his confidence in their game plan by scripting the first 15 plays of every game. All right, so the team knew what the plan was, not just because he said it, but he communicated also with his actions and by operationalizing what his vision was and saying, well, here's how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to take them apart. This is going to work. I'm confident, and here's how it's going to work. We're going to script the first 15 plays. I know the probabilities on this. I know where their weaknesses are. If we keep popping away, plugging away, doing these certain plays, we're going to take them down, okay? So this was a big thing. Again, another football example, but Bill Walsh scripting those first 15 plays. In history, we got another great example, another Greek legend, maybe someone who's on here is Greek, like me. But in 431 BCE, Pericles made an amazing funeral oration. Okay, it was during the first year of the Peloponnesian War between Athens and Sparta, and he used the occasion to inspire the living and not just bury the dead and honor them. But in his honoring of them, he inspired the living through his words. And one of the things he was known to have said, okay, was that the whole earth is the sepulcher of famous men. And what did he mean by that? Well, he was trying to tell people that if you want to be remembered forever, okay, if you want to be remembered forever, then you're going to have to have tremendous courage, and you're going to have to be ready to sacrifice, okay? He talked about courage and sacrifice. He talked about how the whole earth was a sepulcher, right? Basically, this monument to famous men. And he's saying, this is your opportunity, young Athenians, to defend us, to defend something great, okay, against Sparta, to defend us in our way of life, our democracy, which was something new. Sparta didn't have democracy. Sparta had 2 kings, okay, and they were a warlike state that definitely was not democratic, okay. Now, as in the movie 300, the Spartans definitely defended democracy and ultimately helped bring democracy, make democracy survive against the Persian army, as you guys know about the story of the 300. Also made famous by the book, The Hot Gates, The Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield. Okay, so read that book if you haven't read it. It's fantastic. They used to be required reading in the Marine Corps when I was a young lieutenant back in the day. So fantastic, fantastic book. And so Pericles took the time, in this famous funeral oration to talk about Athenian democracy and freedom and why Athens was worth dying for, okay? How do you do that? Okay, how do you make somebody want to sacrifice their lives for something? Well, he was saying you're a part of something greater than yourself and something that's going to change the world and change history. He wasn't wrong. He wasn't really lying to them, okay? And probably he was right, because if they didn't fight, they were going to be slaughtered anyway by the Spartans, okay? So they fighting and dying was probably something that was going to happen anyway. So you may as well fight with courage and fight for freedom and fight for something greater than yourself. And he spoke about something called arete. Arete meant military virtue, excellence in the military virtues like honor, courage, commitment, valor in battle, military excellence of your skills, and your leadership, all those things like that. So what you can see here with all these things of communication is that every interaction either deposits or withdraws credibility. And it's so important, especially when you're in business, right? We talked about Indra Nooyi, how he did things, and same thing with Satya Patel before that, okay, with Microsoft, or Satya Nadella from Microsoft, and how they knew they have elite players. And so they have to directly show how important they are by spending time directly speaking to them. So I'm going to say to you right now, if you're a leader of any type, you have any type of team, if you don't reach out and touch your people through communication, like face to face, and you see them, ask them how they're doing and mean it and really understand what's going on with them, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. You got to understand what their goals are, what problems they're facing, what are their challenges, what do they hope to get out of this work and this job? How can you support them and empower them, right? Like Satya Nadella talked about, okay? And what's the vision? Like Alexander the Great talked about. What is the greater purpose you're trying to communicate, right? What's the problem? And then what's the path and the promise? What's the problem solution? What's the problem? What's the solution? What's the path to get there? Okay. And then what is the overall promise? This is the big thing that leaders, we have to do. This is where you make your money. And if you don't see yourself as a leader, I want to tell you, if you don't see yourself as a leader, I'm going to tell you that you're wrong. Okay. Because you are a leader 100% all the way. Okay. So you are definitely a leader all the way. And you have to understand that. You need to think of yourself as a leader and start behaving about leadership before people ever put you in a position to be a leader. You need to exhibit the behaviors, do the behaviors, then you'll get put in the position. That's just how it is, okay? And remember, like I like to think about true leadership is about lifting others up, okay? It's not really about you. It's about lifting others up, empowering others, bringing out the best in them and in your team, okay? And creating a legacy of positive impact, all right? And if you're not doing that, you got to check yourself and really be intentional, okay? It makes a lot of sense when you really practice it. You're going to see the magic occur. You're going to see, light bulbs going off on people. Their trust is going to go up. And when trust goes up, resistance goes down, you can get so much more done. That's just how it is. You got to build trust. But you can't build trust if you don't communicate. And that also means you're going to have to tell them things they're doing wrong too, okay, and coaching them. But try to look for good things they're doing. Don't just always look for the bad and say, well, I know you're doing that right, so I got to tell you about the bad thing. If you do that, you will turn them off and they will not listen to you. You will not be a leader any longer, okay? Because the next thing is you have to apply pain to get their attention. And if you apply pain for too long, you shut them off and they're going to want to leave and you're going to lose your players, okay? Make no mistake. So you can't ignore the bad things, but you want to search for what they're doing right too. So when you deliver some of the bad news or the corrections they need to make, you're not just telling them, all the bad stuff, but you're not recognizing any of the good things they're doing. Because let's say they're doing 9 things great, 1 thing bad, 1 thing not up to standard. You want to recognize those 9 things and then correct, coach, counsel that 1 thing that isn't working. And you're going to see You're going to see the magic is going to happen. Okay. So next, we're going to talk about lesson 3, culture, standards you actually enforce. This is very important. Okay. This is what you tolerate and also what you celebrate. Okay. Culture is all of these things. It's not just, it's not just, I don't know, it's not like, a ping pong table in a video game arcade and free soda in the snack room, right? That's culture. It's part of it, but culture is also the stories we tell ourselves about our company. What are the things we are known for? What is our legacy? What is our thing we always do? Okay. And the things we would never do, right? What are our symbols that represent us? All these things like that. What's like the history of the company, okay, or of your unit, or of your family, right? What are you trying to establish there? So all these things are really important for culture. And again, as I was told before in the Marine Corps, when you pass by a standard, you make it your own. Ooh, this definitely ties you in as a leader, that it's really up to you, okay? So you can't just have an easy way out and walk by a standard, right? Any type of standard out there. Meaning, if you see something crappy going on, you see someone not doing it right, you're going to have to make sure you correct it, coach it, counsel it, correct it, make it better, okay? This is a lot of work. This takes a lot of moral courage to be a leader. This is not easy, but you can do it, right? If you want to lead, you have to learn to be able to have these hard conversations. You're not going to be able to be a leader if you're not having hard conversations. I just want to tell you that. That's 100% true. You got to be able to have the hard conversations, okay? Remember, culture is what you tolerate and you celebrate. For example, in the modern era, Netflix has this keeper test, okay? And they have a very high performance bar. So what does the keeper test mean at Netflix? Well, the keeper test is basically this. Is this person a keeper? Is this someone you would fight to keep if you found out they were going to get a new job and they wanted to leave, right? All of a sudden you find out this person has a new job and they want to leave, okay? And they have a new job, they want to leave. Would you fight for them? And what Netflix's keeper test is, if not, if you're like, no, I'm actually kind of happy they'd leave, then let them leave right away, faster, give them a generous severance package and get them out of there and get a new performer in, okay? So the keeper test, that's an example of culture, right? You could use this on your own too. You could even have business conversations with people, leadership conversations, especially if you're in a leadership position, or even if you're an informal leader on a team, an ad hoc team, and say, is this person a keeper? Would you want to keep them on the team? Maybe we can ask for somebody else to be in our little ad hoc team, this temporary team we're putting together, that we have sometimes at work. Okay? Next modern example, something called the andon cord. Toyota's andon cord. And put it in the chat if you guys have seen any of these things. But Toyota's andon cord basically is that any worker on the assembly line can reach up and pull this lanyard. It's the andon cord that will shut the entire assembly plant down. If they see something unsafe, not up to standard, something that's wrong, anyone can shut it down. Okay? So this is truly building a culture of empowerment for everyone. It also puts everyone on the spot that you are a leader. What you see matters. If you see something, not only say something, do something, okay? And that's led to a lot of, quality fixes, safety fixes, and things like that for Toyota. Next, in sports, we got Bill Belichick, okay? Bill Belichick was known for one thing, DYJ. DYJ, baby, do your job, okay? This has gone through almost every college team, every high school football team, every little league team. Number one rule, and my football team, okay, was do your job, all right? Rule number one, I taught all my players, DYJ, do your job. And I would also teach them, in order to be able to do your job, you have to know your job. That means you're watching film. That means you're studying the plays. That means you know every little detail, every little step. If you don't, you can't DYJ. You can't do your job unless you really know your job. So you got to study, spend a lot of time in improvement, self-improvement, okay? And for Belichick, part of the culture was that the standard of behavior for the culture, the team culture, was more important than any star. Any star power he didn't care about. When you come here, and it would say it on the New England Patriots, as much as I hate them because they beat the Bills so many times, absolutely hated them at the time. All right, but I respect the hell out of Belichick and what he did there. But it said, a big sign in the front office, when you come here, do your job. When you come here, team first, do your job. Okay? That's the type of culture they established that led to whatever it was, 6 Super Bowls or something crazy. In history, we have another great example here, okay? The next example in history is of the Roman legions, okay? The Roman legions. And what type of example do the Roman legions play? Well, I'll tell you, all right? The Roman legions were known for shared discipline and repeatable drills. The standard bearer wasn't symbolic. It was operational, okay? It was for a reason, for the discipline and for the culture. So the Roman legions were also known to be one of the first armies, probably the Spartans as well too, but the first and most powerful in history, large army, to have a repeatable, sustainable process to create cookie-cutter Roman legions from a system of taxation, training, all these things like that. And definitely they still took on the personality of their generals, and they were often sponsored by, rich citizens, things like that. But the Roman legions, they were called a legion for a reason. They were creating cookie-cutter legions, and that's one of the ways that they defeated some powerful foes like Hannibal when he came to conquer Italy and almost conquered Rome, all of Rome. In fact, did conquer it. But the Roman legions were created, and they kept creating them because they had such a culture and a standard and a system of doing things that they were able to create more legions to defeat them and take back Rome. So you can see why the culture and the standards you actually enforce are so important. Show the right way, and like I've said before to you guys, inspect what you expect. All right? And what I would say as an example is, for your own business, your own life, your own personal standard, write one non-negotiable. Announce it, enforce it, and what is it for you? Okay? And then we were talking about mission. I want you to write down, what is your mission? Make it one simple sentence. What is your personal mission? What is your company mission? Do you have one? Like I've told you guys before a million times, my personal mission is to be an inspirational leader to create positive, lasting change in the lives of others. Boom, done, right? One simple sentence. That's it. If it's not that, I'm not doing it, okay? Very simple. All right, let's go on to lesson number 4. Lesson number 4, logistics win before strategy, okay? So logistics really should be a part of the strategy, but I want to emphasize that logistics is so important, and that you have to make sure that in your strategy you have a serious, significant logistics plan, okay? As I was told many times, amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics every time. Also, amateurs who talk strategy without logistics, a significant discussion on logistics, are just missing the plot and they don't know what they're doing, okay? So important. For example, FedEx, Walmart, Amazon, they all weaponized logistics. Speed became a brand. FedEx was created it was in Vietnam, okay? I believe it was in Dien Bien Phu, all right, in Vietnam. And watching the airplanes come in and out, there was a young Marine officer there who later on became the founder of FedEx. He watched how the airplanes came in and out around the clock and resupplied and got things from around the world and brought them into Vietnam for them to stay in the fight, not to get overrun. And he said, I'm gonna bring this military-style logistics, combat any weather logistics, to the civilian world. And he did it, okay? He barely did it, but he did it, and then it was amazing. Great story there too, okay? Walmart and Amazon, same thing. Amazon, we saw during COVID, just went bananas, right? Went absolutely crazy. But they weaponized logistics. Speed became a brand. Scaling, amazing scale. In sports, Super Bowl weeks are logistics operations. It's huge, okay? Logistics operations with shoulder pads. Think about this. You got to think about not just the teams, but the productions themselves, right? The overall entertainment event itself, okay? And just what exactly that looks like. So the logistics of the Super Bowl, when you think about the scripting, the timing, the substitutions on the field, all these things like that, getting the huge halftime show going. There is so much that goes into that. So when you watch the Super Bowl this year, take a look and just think of, gosh, how do they get Bad Bunny out there on time? How do they have this all synchronized with all the live plays around the world on TV? The teams getting there, the exact timing, getting the fans in and out, security, the food, the refreshments, everything there. Think about that, right? And how much that takes and how much prior planning it takes to make that a success. And also, how much redundancy is built in, right? How much duplicate, how much redundancy is built in to actually protect against failure. Okay, super important. And then in history, logistics. Look at all the roads lead to Rome. Rome's roads. Okay, all roads lead to Rome. This is a huge logistical advantage for the Roman Empire. All right, roads really matter a lot. Trains, railroads, air supply systems. Right, we're talking about aerial resupply, logistics from the sea. The strategic lines of communication in the slocks at sea, right? The choke points, all these things like that. These all matter so much. Okay. Hey, it's no way, Giovanni. I see that you did security for the Super Bowl. Whoa, amazing. Yeah, the Diamond Dog. Steve McQueen was USMC. Sorry, take a little pause here. A little pause for some of the comments and questions. All right, I'll get in there and I'll talk about some after this. We'll take a quick pause, do some questions after this lesson. Now, historically, we talk about Rome's roads. Napoleon's supply lines. Let's talk about this for a second, okay? Napoleon's supply lines. La Diamond Dog, this is for you. And so, Napoleon was really known that he was more of a logistician. Really, he was a master logistician and master of supply, okay, keeping his army supplied, even more so than he was with his use of cannon, his cavalry, and his military maneuvers, right? He would always say, he was known to say this, an army marches on its stomach. He was known for his mastery of supply and logistics to sustain campaigns. One of the things I think is so important to understand is that bottlenecks really, these decide campaigns, okay? Bottlenecks will decide your campaign. So, and his cavalry, so no matter what, and his military maneuvers, no matter what you think, okay, it is 100% true that 100% true all the way that logistics matter so much. Okay? It just is really going to matter more than you can imagine. All right, we'll take a quick pause here. I'll get into some questions. No matter what you think, okay, it is 100% true. I'll get into some questions really quick. We'll take a little halftime. Okay, everything good? You guys can hear me okay? See me okay? No issues? Courage and patience. Amen. All right, let's see here. Hey, Joel, how's it going? Steve, what's going on? Let's see. Okay, Giovanni. Oh, no way. Okay, Giovanni, cool. That was Super Bowl. I can only imagine, man, how much that must have been a nut show. Must have been a total nut show, for sure. That must have been so crazy, Giovanni. Let's see here. Yeah, I agree. It has to be a personal touch to a degree. Leadership is lifting others up. That's powerful. I mean, it's true though, right? You want to be able to inspire people to greater heights. Sometimes do you have to be negative? Sometimes do you have to really push people? Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, yeah, you do. Sometimes you have to break a negative pattern of action as a leader. And if you guys have any leadership questions, put them in the chat and I'll get to them. But also, leadership, like I'm saying, you have to have a human, direct, personal touch. But do you also have to sometimes be tough and have to tell someone they're doing it wrong? There's a way you can do it. Do you have to be negative sometimes? Sometimes you might have to. You might have to interrupt a pattern if something's happening and it needs to happen really quickly. But I would say it's rare. It's not often that you have to be like that, right? I mean, if you're a football coach, maybe, right? A high school football coach, NFL football coach, these are different, right? High pressure, everything's on the line. You only have so much time, right? Usually in the business environment, not as much, unless someone is being negligent, right? Unless someone's really not doing their job, or they're stealing from the company, or you suspect that they're fraud, waste, and abuse, taking advantage of company time, making it their own time. You may have to send a strong message, okay? So I don't want to confuse anybody that leadership is like this, right? Leadership is a whole bunch of different things that you can do, tactics, techniques. But what I'm telling you is that if you do too much of one thing, okay, and if it's not the appropriate thing at that time, given the circumstance, right, the appropriate tactic, you can lose them and not be as effective. If you're super, super positive all the time, when they're just crapping all over you and doing a terrible job, that's different. That's not the right time to do that. You got to hold people accountable. You have to coach, counsel, maybe fire. Maybe you're going to have some strong words with people, right? Okay. So the other thing is, if you're being negative all the time, I already talked about this, you're going to numb them. They're going to be sick of you. They're going to want to get out of there, especially if you don't recognize the good things they're doing, okay? There are time and place for these different tools and techniques. There are different types of communication. Just know that your intentions will be seen as a leader. And if you don't have the best intentions, if your intentions are actually more about you and your self-gain and you don't care about the team, it's going to shine through, okay? It's going to shine through, and they're going to know exactly what you're up to, okay? Put any other questions you guys have in the chat, okay? Put any questions you guys have in the chat, and I will get to them in a second here. We're going to get right to it. All right. Quick pause there. Let me see here. You had to chase a fan? They ran on the field on Monday Night Football? That's nuts. I would have pulled my hamstring. That is hilarious. Oh, my gosh. And what happened? All right, let's get rolling into this. See what you guys got. Sandra, you struggle with communication? Well, I'll tell you, communication isn't easy. You have to work at it, right? You need to work at it. You need to practice it. You need to study it. It's one of the things I teach in my Ferocious Optimist, my coaching program, okay? And also in my coaching membership, my community, we talk about leadership communication. When I work with my one-on-one clients, I'm doing leadership development, we talk about this as well too. And I talk about something called the 4 Ps, all right? And we talk about, you have to know what your purpose is. You have to be very present in the moment, okay? And you have to speak passionately sometimes, but these little techniques and tools make a huge difference, okay, for being an effective communicator. And it's not easy. You got to practice. You got to set yourself up for success. But always make sure you know, what is my intention here? Why am I having this communication? Why am I talking to them? Why am I sending this email? Okay? So really, really important. All right, we're going to keep on rolling here in a minute. Okay? Let's go. Let's do this. We're going to keep on rocking and rolling here, everybody. Here we go. We are on lesson number 5. Lesson number 5 is all about decentralized execution. You want to make sure that everybody understands the reason why. What is the commander's intent? What's the deeper reason why you're doing what you're doing, okay? When people understand the bigger reason why, they can create multiple ways to get it done, multiple options for success, okay? So if one door closes, they know the bigger reasons why. They can use their creativity and their skills to find another way to achieve what the broader objective is, all right? You want to keep the purpose at the core center of what you're doing and push the decisions and the tactics out to the edges, out to the people actually doing it. But as long as they understand, you do have to set up some guardrails, okay? You want to make sure you're setting up some guardrails. And the guardrails have to be defining what is success and what is failure. Okay, this is really important. What is success? What is failure? Okay, what is it? What do we have to do? What can't we do? What are the restraints? What are the constraints? Okay, what are your resource limitations? What are the decisions you can make? What are the decisions that if it comes up, you have to talk to me about? All those things are important that you put into this execution, but the deeper reason why, the intent, the overall purpose for why we're doing what we're doing is hugely important, okay? Make no mistake about this. It's so important. And that's part of being a great leader is you're, again, communicating what needs to be done and the reason it needs to be done, but not telling them how to do it, okay? In the modern era, we have Amazon, okay? Amazon is known for this, moving fast, keeping the bigger reason why, letting them really just run and operate. On the sports field, a really great example is on the field audibles, right? Quarterbacks, linebackers on the defense, safeties, they're allowed to call audibles. All right, even the defensive line can call different techniques, different stunts if they see a certain protection package being set up in football. I'm a football guy, so it's what you're going to hear about from me. Okay? Hey, Jenks, what's going on, man? Good to have you here. And so it's really important to understand that when you teach them the deeper reason why, what the intent is, You allow them to be able to use their creativity, use their initiative to get things done. And that's what the on-the-field audibles for me are some of the best illustrations of players adapting to what they see in front of them, the situation in front of them, by understanding what the coach's intent, the team's intent, the overall commander's intent is, okay? In history, Napoleon's Corps system, he did this. We talked about Napoleon already. But then the United States Marine Corps has taken the best practices throughout the greatest war fighters in history, the greatest armies, the greatest fighting warriors in history, and put it into what they do and how they fight, okay? I'm not biased at all, as you guys know. I'm definitely not biased. Look at this. Looks like they're shooting at me. Semper Fi. Look at these warlords right here. Look at these Marines. Nothing finer, nothing better in the world than that right there. Hell yeah. All right. So in the Marine Corps, commander's intent. Initiative thrives with a clear purpose, okay? I'm going to tell you how many times, if you're getting in someone's way in the Marine Corps, the corporal of Marines, the sergeant of Marines, and you're trying to tell them how to do their job, you're, in a lot of the times, unless it's very, very sensitive and very, very specific, you're going to tell them that in the order, right? You're going to tell them, this is something we cannot do. Like, you got to make sure that this does not happen. Or you got to make sure that at this point, it has to happen this way. And then tell them why it has to happen that way. So everyone understands, okay? And then you let them go and let them do it. And they're going to be freaking amazing like they always are. I'm telling you, some of those young Marines, you don't even understand. They go on to do great things in life. So many of them, whether they're business owners, they become career professionals, they stay in the Marine Corps for a long time, whatever. But because they learn how to take initiative and they're so driven, okay? They're so driven and they're such go-getters overall. It's just amazing warriors, discipline, courage, all the stuff like that. But they wouldn't be that and they wouldn't discover that about themselves, okay, if we didn't allow them to take initiative. Because then they start to do what? They start trusting themselves. And when you start trusting yourself, it becomes so powerful. So powerful. This is why the Marine Corps is so great at creating leaders, because we let them take initiative and make mistakes and get better and get better. Next thing you know, they are outmaneuvering the enemy, okay, in the competition, because the decision-making is just faster. It's just faster. They're not waiting around. They know what the intent is. They know what the mission is. Go make it happen. They go make it happen. Okay? And they love it. They love having the freedom of action. It's the same thing in special operations, no doubt for sure. Okay? Obviously. Marine Raiders, all the way like this. Special Forces, Green Berets, SEALs, all the way like that. Okay? 100%. I'm just talking about a larger organization of the Marine Corps itself. And, this is what they do. Teaching intent. Napoleon did this in his Corps system, like I'm talking about as well. Okay? All right, let's keep on rolling here. Remember, there's freedom inside boundaries. You as a leader, you can use this, okay? On Monday, you can use this. Listen, you all have freedom of action, as long as you stay within the boundaries. I would say this to a lot of my guys, right? Don't go off the reservation. There's an electric fence around the reservation. You're free to roam all through here, all you want, like they're buffalo, right? I'd say just don't hit the electric fence. There's an electric fence around this reservation. And if you electric fence around this field, and if you want to ride up against the fence, you're going to get shocked, right? So, and if they need to go off the reservation, do something else, or go outside of the boundaries, right? Then we can go ahead and open the gate for you, okay? But just like old cowboy talk, right? This is our land. This is, and it's all defined within these boundaries. But you do have to set them up for success and let them know what the boundaries are, what winning looks like, what losing looks like, what success looks like, all those things like that. If you don't do that as a leader, if you're not defining success and failure, if you're not setting up priorities for them, if you're not setting up just how far they can go with their freedom, they will push it. And then you'll be like, oh, why did you do that? You didn't tell me I couldn't. I'm getting things done. Okay, so that's on you as a leader when you're communicating. That's definitely on you. All right, I want you guys to think about, what is one boundary? Budget, time, quality. What is it? Define one boundary for your team this week, or for yourself, your personal life, and stick to it, and then communicate it. That's going to be so important. All right, next, we are going to talk about decisions under uncertainty. Okay? Decisions under uncertainty. That means decisions without perfect information. I'm going to tell you, I can't tell you how many times that I've been in situations where there is not perfect information, okay? Just, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what was going on, not perfect information. And it never will be perfect information. You're never going to know everything. You still have to take action. You still have to know that a good decision now is better than the perfect decision later, because the perfect information will never be there. And if you're still waiting to analyze again, and wait, you're losing time, and time is your most precious resource, okay? I'm going to tell you, slow correctness loses to fast learning, okay? So the best decision, the perfect decision will lose to someone that takes a good or decent decision now and then adjusts, iterates, adjusts, learns, grows, adapts, okay? So, but you got to get started. As I said in one of the videos I posted this morning, get in the damn water, right? You got to get in the water and start paddling, start going, start swimming. You got to go, make it happen. Don't sit on the sidelines. Don't sit on the edge of the pool and like, I'm not getting in. I don't know. Jump in, get in, make it happen. In modern times right now, Jeff Bezos is known for this, okay? He talks about type 1, type 2 decisions. I like to use Daniel Kahneman as a reference for systems 1 and systems 2 thinking. Systems 1 thinking, very fast, easily recognizable. It comes from experience, okay, and from deeply ingrained skills you have. So you're making decisions quickly because you really, really know what's going on. You know it so well, as you've done it 1,000 times, okay? This is also where Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours to become an expert come into play, okay? And then Daniel Kahneman talked about type 2 thinking as well too, okay? Type 2 thinking is when you do a deeper analytical, slower process, and you're thinking about cognitive distortions, logical fallacies, biases you have, okay? You're looking at your assumptions. What are the assumptions you're basing your decision on? Because it's a little more complex. And also, whether you use systems 1 or systems 2 type thinking, okay, systems 2 thinking, it depends on how much time you have for the decision. I can remember General John Allen and also General Mattis talking about no decision before it's time. They would use this little acronym, NIDBIT, okay? No decision before it's time, meaning if that decision doesn't need to be made right now and you can assess and observe and gather more information, then that's fine, okay? So you also don't want to be a spaz and rush to failure. Can you guys see how leadership is very nuanced and very complex at times, okay? To be a good leader, it's all in your head, right? And it's also, I believe too, in your physical fitness too. You need the energy to be a great leader. Nothing can take the place of great energy, okay? But if you have great energy and you make dumb decisions or hasty decisions, you rush to failure, right? You're making decisions that don't need to be made right now, and you could gather more evidence, more information, you could rush to failure. So it's a combination both of high energy with wisdom, temperance, mental focus, the ability to control your mental focus and the direction of your thoughts, okay? Your ability to also endure your emotions, the uncomfortable emotions, the fear, the anxiety, all things that come with it, okay? There's a lot that goes into leadership. That's why I say leaders aren't born, right? They're really not born. Leaders are made. They're made through experience, through training, through mentorship, all these things, through practice, making mistakes, getting up again, learning. Hopefully, like I've always said before, you're learning well ahead of time from history, from case studies, from people who have failed, right? Because I'm going to tell you right now, success is often not a good teacher. All right? Please mark that down. Success is not a good teacher. You might have had $1 million year this year. This year might have been $1 million year, okay? And you might not know how you made the money. You just might not know, okay? You might have had great success on the football field and you think it's you, coach, but actually it's because you got this D1 blue chip recruit who just scores all the touchdowns. And you're like, everything I do turns to gold. Well, wait till next year when that blue chip recruit scoring all the touchdowns leaves, okay? And he's just a freak of nature on the football field, okay? Same thing. You're in women's track team, and you got this girl who can win the hundreds, win the hurdles, win this, win that, does everything, right? And you're like, we just keep winning these meets, okay? Because you got this superstar, and it ain't you, okay? So really you have to analyze, really deep analysis. Why are we winning? Okay, if you're winning right now currently, why are you winning? Don't just get euphoric and be like, I win. It's me. Maybe it's not. Maybe you're just getting lucky, okay? Maybe the economy is so good right now, all boats are getting lifted. That's not the case right now. But I'm saying there's sometimes when everything's going gangbusters and you just make money, right? And then you can do a post-mortem on a loss, though, and you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot. But please, please, please study other people's losses first. This whole thing of in business, I teach this to my executive clients all the time. It's in my Leadership 100, Leadership 200 courses, okay? I have a whole series of courses I teach in leadership as well, too. But Leadership 200, very fancy names, right? In Leadership 200, we talk about the fact that you need to make sure that you are learning from the mistakes of others first, because there's a whole thing out there where, and I don't know if they do it so much anymore, but people talk about, you're an entrepreneur in business, just go out there and do it. But if you fail fast. Just fail fast. Get out there and fail fast. Why? Don't fail if you don't have to. You might crash and burn so bad you can't get back in the game. This Instagram stuff is bullshit, okay? TikTok stuff, this is bullcrap. So, I don't say go out and fail fast. What I say is look at other people's failures, know what they did wrong. Definitely get in the fight, get in the game, play hard. But as you're going, be mindful, keep studying, keep learning, keep growing. If you don't know something, don't throw caution to the wind. You'll throw your money to the wind too. And you'll throw your team to the wind, maybe your opportunity, maybe your reputation. So, all right. So, but the thing is this, in this lesson, number 6, you need to be able to make decisions in uncertainty. You need to learn how to thrive in chaos. If you noticed a lot of my YouTube videos, a few of them talk about thriving in chaos. I think just last Friday's was as well too. What was Alex Pereira's, plan for the chaos? The chaos is everything else going on around us that's threatening to pull us down, right? So you have to know what to do for that. All right. Football, sports example of this. Halftime adjustments. Okay, they still have uncertain information, but they know more now because they've met the enemy. They've met the opposing team. They know what they like to do. They know why they're losing. They assessed it. They made adjustments. They come out in the second half and they beat them. How many times have you guys seen that in games, right? They make a halftime adjustment. They come out, win the second half by learning first, okay? They learn fast, learn first. They might they might actually lose the first half, come out in the second half and just exploit what they see and win, okay? In history, let's go into history. Let's take a look here. Eisenhower. In history, Eisenhower. Plans are nothing, planning is everything, okay? He was also the one who said leadership is the art of getting other people to do what you want them to do and believe that it's because they want to do it. More or less that, I'm paraphrasing it, but leadership is the art of getting people to do what you want them to do because they want to do it, okay? So Eisenhower was known for this. Plans are nothing, planning is everything. This is so important. Can you imagine being in charge of the D-Day invasion, right? You're not going to have certain information, and you got to go. Eventually, you got to go. One thing they knew is they chose the longest day with the most sunlight, and they went then, right? And there's so much uncertainty. They didn't know everything. Back then, they didn't have all the same things we have with satellites and drones and all this stuff like that. But they had to go anyway. They still had to go. And so you try to mitigate the risk. You try to deal with the risk and the uncertainty by building in flexibility that, okay, if they do this, you red team it, you war game it, you red team it. That means that you have someone playing the enemy. You have someone playing the market. You have someone playing the opposing business. You have someone that's a scout team playing the other team to give you a look of what could you encounter? What's the worst case scenario that can happen? What's the most likely scenario that can happen? Okay. And you operate off those things, knowing that, okay, most probable course of action for the enemy, for the market, for the opposing team is this. The most dangerous thing they can do is this, right? And then you try to iterate, adapt, learn fast at halftime in battle and business and life and make adjustments so you can go out and win, all right? You have to have a bias for action. You got to have a bias for action. Bet small at first and then have a short learning loop. Iterate, adjust, adapt, overcome. One of the things Jim Collins talks about in the book From Good to Great, okay, famous business book, Jim Collins, great author on business, talked about firing bullets first, then cannonballs, okay? And put in the chat if you know what I'm talking about, firing bullets first and then cannonballs, okay? So firing bullets first, then cannonballs really means you want to get your reconnaissance in. You want to test the waters, make sure that we're hitting first before we commit all our forces and all our resources against this, okay? One of the things, there used to be this thing called the SMA in the Marine Corps, all right? And it was an anti-tank weapon. But before you fired the big rocket at a tank or at a bunker or something, a big explosive round, it was like, a big boom shoulder-fired rocket launcher, you'd fire these little spotter tracer rounds. It was like a little pistol. It'd go pew, pew, pew. These little bullets that really did no damage. I don't even know if these things could kill anybody. But they're little tracer rounds that matched the arc. They had the same arc and velocity coming out as the rocket. And they're called a spotter round because you only got, a couple of these things. So you fire one, fire two. When you know you're hitting it, then you go ahead and launch the rocket. And it's that's, to me, the best example I've ever seen, real world example of fire bullets first, then fire cannonballs. Okay? All right, moving on. Really quick, I'll check the chat here. What do we got going on in the chat before number 7? Let's see. Hey, Nick, what's going on, man? Good to have you guys here. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, it's going to take time like Chinese bamboo. That's right. Yeah, Lisa, that's 100% sure. 100% true. Perfect information will never be there. It's very true. There's certain things we want to make sure are there. You got to have your non-negotiables, okay? And then you got to go. Then you got to take action. But remember, you reserve the right to not do it as well, okay? You have the go, no-go authority as a decision maker, okay? All right, guys. And so if you guys, let me just say this. If you guys like what you're hearing, if this is hitting you, okay, and if this is resonating with you, and you feel like you're in a position right now where you need to grow as a leader, you need to either grow your business, grow your leadership skills, you're hiring people, and you need to become a better leader of the staff as it's growing, or you find yourself all of a sudden promoted to a new position, and you haven't been in this type of position of leadership before, or what it is, okay, whatever it is in leadership, and you don't have a coach or a mentor or a community around you, okay, I've got one for you, all right? My Ferocious Optimist coaching membership and community. We also discuss leadership, best practices of leadership, how to be a better leader, okay? And in these lessons, you're going to learn some of the things like I'm talking about right now, but really much more in depth, much more tactical examples, case studies, things like that. And we're going to talk about that. Also, I do work one-on-one with clients as well too. I work with companies. If you want me to work with your team, I do that as well. I give keynote addresses and then do training afterwards with your team, with your company, all those things. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me, DM me on Instagram, reach out here on YouTube as well too. The link to get in touch with me is in the bio for my coaching membership and community. Click on that. You'll learn more. Also at benpappas.com, you can go to www.benpappas.com and you can see where you can apply for one-on-one coaching with me. Or you can also message me on Instagram or email me at my email at benpappas.com. And really, in a nutshell, my email is ben@benpappas.com. It's not that hard. Again, ben@benpappas.com. You'll get right to me, okay? And tell me what you're thinking about for your speaking event, for your team training event, for leadership development. Maybe you need a consistent, persistent coaching of your team, of some of your junior leadership, your junior managers, all the way to your C-suite executives as well too. I do all of those things, all right? So again, all my links are in the bio. Go to benpappas.com. You'll see everything available there to apply for one-on-one coaching. Email me at ben@benpappas.com, again, with any questions, concerns, feedback, how you want me to get involved with any of your events or your speaking event or for one-on-one coaching. You can either apply on benpappas.com or write to me on Instagram or at ben@benpappas.com for my email. Again, that's ben@benpappas.com. All right, let's get into this. Number 7, identity and discipline beat talent. Okay, the core idea here is that who you decide to be drives how you perform. So everything first starts here in your head, like I told you guys before, okay? You have to be mindful of your thoughts. Change your thoughts, you'll change your life. You're going to see this as a recurring refrain that I tell people. Change your thoughts, you'll change your life, okay? For example, we're going to talk about Yvon Chouinard from Patagonia. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right, okay? Yvon Chouinard from Patagonia, the company Patagonia, okay? His identity for his company, his personal identity, but then his identity of his company is anchored in stewardship and in conservation of nature and of protecting nature. And he drove bold, coherent decisions, left a lot of money on the table as well too when he could have made more money because he wanted to stay and keep his company anchored in this identity of stewardship and of interacting well with the environment and, in special indigenous places, things like that. Okay. That's what they've been all about. In sports, someone we're all familiar with. All right. Alex Poatan Pereira. We just talked about our hero over there on Friday, the two-time UFC champion and the new light heavyweight champion in the UFC. Love that guy. Discipline ends detours. Okay. He chose who to be. He was a drunk, an alcoholic, lived in, working in a tire shop, had nothing. His brother died from drugs and was also involved, I think, in violence and all these things like that. Okay. Probably gang violence. He decided, my identity is not this. All right. And then he met a coach as well, too, and gave himself to this coach who saw the greatness in him, who then taught him what his real identity, who he was really supposed to be. And the discipline from all this ended the detours he had. Your identity multiplies your effort. Remember that. Okay. And I want you to never attach your identity to anything you can't control. Okay. If you attach your identity to external factors, you're going to hurt yourself. All right. You're going to hurt yourself, and you're going to be, blowing this way and that way with the wind. You won't feel anchored. All right. In history, we're going to talk about Cincinnatus and Washington. And really, Cincinnatus was known to have given up his power once he had the power. Washington, the same thing. Okay, we're going to talk about that just for a minute here. General George Washington. Okay, first president of the United States. Remarkable story. They tried to make him king. Okay, they tried to make him king, and he said no. Power was taken. He took the power. His duty was done. He gave the power back. Okay, just think about it. His identity was trust. His identity was also that I don't want to be the king. We've done something amazing here, and I want to be remembered for this, for giving up the power, because this is what this is about. And in history, Cincinnatus was an example for him as well, too. Okay, he wanted to fight the wars. He had all the glory. He wanted to go home to his estate and his farm or whatever like that. Okay, so just understand that who you see yourself as matters so much. This is why the power of story is so important. And we talk about this in our coaching membership in the community. I talk about this with my one-on-one clients as well too. Okay, but the story you tell yourself about yourself will influence your identity. Okay, your identity is the single largest factor. This is the way you see yourself. Okay, is a single largest factor in the way you behave. Okay. One of the most powerful forces in the human condition is the need to stay consistent with the way we see ourselves. Okay? This is also a big Tony Robbins thing too. All right? He talks about stuff like that. So does Jim Rohn. Okay? And a lot of, guys like that. But especially Tony Robbins is big on that. And I do believe this is so true. Okay? Because when you change your identity, you change the way you see yourself, you change your personal story, everything changes. So if your story is a bad story and you keep replaying the same story over and over, I always lose. Oh, I go for it, but I always mess it up. And people get comfortable with you and they support you in the story. Like, oh, man, I hear you. Okay. And you have mediocre friends, mediocre peers, mediocre surrounding, and you behave in a mediocre way and you see yourself as a mediocre person. Okay. You are not mediocre unless you make that your identity. Choose greatness, choose excellence, choose to give everything you have, to go for what you want. All right. Change your identity to be that thing. I always produce consistent results. And when I mess up, I catch it on the first bounce. I learn quickly. I correct it and I get better. Okay. That's a good identity. That's a growth mindset identity. Okay. And then again, the intentionality with the identity. Again, with Washington, power was taken. Duty was done. Power relinquished. He gave it back because he didn't see himself as that person. You got to think of the great temptation to be the first king in the new world of the United States, right? To be the first king. If his identity wasn't set up that way and he didn't have his belief system set, he probably would have made a different decision, okay? Power of identity. All right. Let's go. Lesson number 8, ethics under stress. Ethics under stress. Put any questions you guys have in the chat. What's up, Bad Wolf? Good to have you here, man. Integrity is a system. It's not a speech. Okay. You got to have integrity as a system, not a speech. There was Johnson & Johnson had the Tylenol recall, not the most recent Tylenol issue, but they had the Tylenol recall when they were poisoning Tylenol with cyanide. They were killing people. Okay. They wanted to focus on long-term trust of the Tylenol name and of the Johnson & Johnson name over a short-term profit. So they recalled everything, cost them a ton of money, millions and millions of dollars, right? And they wanted that over a short-term fix. They chose to keep the brand strong and build and keep long-term trust over short-term profit, okay? Chick-fil-A, their identity, and also part of their identity was what their beliefs were. And so therefore, under their beliefs and their morals, their ethics caused them to keep Chick-fil-A closed on Sunday as a value signal, okay? It's a consistent value signal for what the founder and the owner believed, that they were not going to work on Sundays. They would be closed on Sunday. And so they do that, all right? It's a system. You systematize the integrity. And when I say integrity, people think, always it's about telling the truth. Yes, but it's also about being who you are according to your values, okay? That as well too. And we're going to go into take a look at history. Talk about the Magna Carta, limiting power, okay? American founders, checks and balances. All right? And we got George Washington up here still, and it's fitting. He's still up there. American founders, checks and balances system, okay? And we got Nelson Mandela. Okay? Mandela's reconciliation. It's a choice that really multiplied legitimacy. So why did it really matter so much? So what did Mandela do? Obviously, we know his story, right? He's in jail for a long time, apartheid, all those things in South Africa. But, Mandela understood that legitimacy equals moral authority plus public consent. You can't just you have no moral authority if you don't have public consent. Okay? It's not enough to hold power. People must believe you deserve it. And people must trust you that you're going to use power correctly. All right? Mandela understood that if he gained power through vengeance, he'd win control, but his legitimacy, his overall legitimacy would decline. Okay? He understood this. He was a real genius for understanding that in his act of forgiveness and reconciliation, he could strengthen his authority rather than weaken it. And he left, just like George Washington, how George Washington left a legacy of giving up control, right? Of it not being about personal power, not taking the office of the president as personal power, George Washington, okay? That Mandela did almost kind of the same thing. That this wasn't about him. He could establish a legacy that reconciliation, forgiveness would strengthen his authority rather than weaken it. And therefore, really strengthen the position that we don't need to take vengeance for apartheid, okay? And after 27 years of brutal imprisonment, this is the choice he made, okay? He had every right to demand whatever he wanted, probably, okay? But he emerged without bitterness, and he shocked the world with this, with forgiveness, okay? So he also won the trust of the white minority in South Africa by doing what he did. So he cemented his legitimacy even more, okay? And you don't think that was passed on. You got to know that was passed on to whoever his successor was, right? His successor enjoyed the fruits of the decisions that Mandela made, okay? So super, super powerful. Super powerful. The fact that he did that. Okay? And I've read, books on him before, and I don't know, after 27 years of imprisonment, brutal imprisonment, how I would have behaved. This is a strong, strong man who had a real vision, and he was already a tremendous leader. But the fact that he forgave and he cemented his legacy more, and he taught the people that this is our culture, this is what we do. Super powerful. Super powerful. Okay? And just remember, in ethics, okay, in decision-making and ethics, I always talk about ethical decisions under stress. My business leadership framework is called RP2EL. If you look at me on LinkedIn, you're going to see I'm the founder of the RP2EL system, right? And what that means is the right people, you got to choose the right people, hire the right people, right? Who should be on the bus with you? Right people with the right process, that's RP2, right process for planning and execution. The E is ethical decisions under stress, which we're talking about right now, and you'll never have perfect information. Okay, so I'm passing on some of these lessons to you guys. All right, you're going to have to operate without perfect information and make good, sound, ethical decisions. Otherwise, you're going to lose market share. Otherwise, you're going to lose legitimacy and moral authority like Mandela, we're talking about, the decisions he made, okay? And then L, we talked about the L a few before. Learning from mistakes. I want you to learn from the mistakes of other people. Don't learn the hard way. Learn the easy way, okay? Get me to be your coach. I'll teach you the easy way. I'll show you case studies, and we'll talk about all kinds of ways to make sure you're set up for success and you do the best leadership practices based on tried and true proven systems, on human behavior, human psychology, organizational psychology, all these things like that, okay? And organizational dynamics and how to lead making lasting change, how to lead change in an organization, in your life, all those things like that, okay? So very, very important that you know that guardrails in this area prevent the cliffs. When you have guardrails up in this learning from mistakes, ethical decisions under stress, okay, knowing how to make decisions in less than perfect information, really actually in a foggy situation, you put the guardrails up, okay, mitigating the risk, understanding your assumptions, all this stuff like that, you're going to prevent falling off the cliff 100%, okay? Number 9, teach the system, build successors. Leaders scale by transferring judgment. You don't have enough time in the day. You never have enough time in the day to be able to scale a business on your own. You don't have enough time in the day to get done everything you need to do if you're trying to build a business. All right. So as a leader, you can only scale by transferring judgment, transferring responsibility. The one thing you never transfer as a leader is accountability. You are accountable. You'll never stop being accountable. Okay. But you can grant responsibility and say, so-and-so, you're now responsible for making this happen. This is your job, okay? And you can hold them responsible. But understand, the buck stops with you as a leader. The buck stops with you. There's no going past you. You're not like, well, I told them to do it, and therefore, no. You can hold them responsible, but what was your judgment in making them in charge of that? Were they ready? Were they prepared? Were they trained? Did they have the experience? Did you give them enough information? Did you put the guardrails up, right, to help them succeed, right? Did you set them up for success? Like we always say, it's crucial, absolutely crucial. All right. General Electric, GE, Crotonville had proved systems thinking. Microsoft's manager coaching revamp. Okay, they went ahead and revamped the way they did things by coaching, counseling. The Marine Corps was huge in this. We had a counseling system, and you're supposed to counsel so many times per year. Really, you should be coaching, counseling every month, okay? Every week should be informal counseling, just, informal on the side, informal coaching. Coaching should be regular. But formal counseling, you need to do it more than you think, all right? Some people never do it. Very disappointing. And then when they have something bad that happens, they have no justification or evidence for why. There's no heads up. It's just like, yeah, well, we're going to kill your fitness report. We're going to kill your evaluation. You're bombing out. You're failing. And they're like, what? Why? I thought I was doing fine. No one ever said anything. Yeah, well, there are indications. No, they better know where it's going, okay? So either every month you're talking to them or every quarter you're talking to them, okay? And you're actually making it very clear why things are the way they are, okay? So teach the system, build your successors. You got to build in somebody who can help you with your job as well too, all right? And don't have the fear about you being taken out, all right? You want to train the person who can help you to get more done. Train your successor, like they always say, okay? It makes a huge difference. Bill Walsh, again, from the 49ers, he had the West Coast coaching tree, right? He had other coaches who would take care of things as well. Saban's staff tree, the same thing. All of the responsibilities are clearly outlined. If you don't have clear responsibilities at your work, you need to be the one to take charge of the situation and actually ask for a clear definition of what am I supposed to do? What's so-and-so's job? Knowing everybody's job, who's who in the zoo, makes a huge difference. And if you're not in a good environment for that, just know that you need to know what right looks like, and that's not what right looks like, okay? I want to say that apprentices learn the method and not just the task. You got to understand the method, the how you do it, the how-to behind it, right? And not just the task to be done. It makes a huge difference. Document it once, teach it twice. I'll say it again. Document it once, teach it twice. If you're building a business, a great thing that works for people is actually press record on your phone. Press screen record on your computer. Go to Zoom. Record yourself as you do a task. Share your screen, okay? You can train whoever it is you're trying to hire to save you time as a business leader or as an entrepreneur, all right? But you need to document it, how it's done, what the standard is, and then what the quality of standard expected is, how it's done, what the quality of standard is, the quality standard expected is for the result, and then teach it and teach it and teach it. Remember, that's on you. Training and teaching is on you as a leader, okay? You can record a 5-minute Loom, a walkthrough, a Zoom, whatever you want to do, all right? Then hand it off because they've been trained, okay? And once they're trained, they're trained. And then you have to have retraining later on. Make no mistake. That's going to be true too. All right. And lesson number 10, we got to it. Here we go. Resilience plus ferocious optimism. Ferocious optimism with the combat mindset, the unstoppable mindset, but you need to have resilience, okay? Like I've always told you guys, change your thoughts, you'll change your life, okay? But first of all, you need to learn how to direct your mental focus. You need to learn how to choose your thoughts and direct your thoughts. This has a lot to do with your emotional state, okay? Your state of being, or as I call it, your power state. That means your energy, your attitude, all those things, your mindset, okay? Train your state, and then you decide on strategy. Because if you don't have your state, you don't show up with energy. You don't show up with enthusiasm. You don't show up with passion. You don't show up with focus and mental clarity, and you know your purpose. You know the mission. You know the overall intention for why you're doing what you're doing, the deeper intent right behind it. Then no strategy can save you. And you also got to know logistics for it too, okay? So an example, I will tell you this. Ford had a great turnaround from Alan Mulally. Turned Ford around with one plan, radical transparency. And I'll say you don't even need to say radical. Just transparency is enough. What does that mean, radical transparency? But they're trying to say because there's not enough transparency, so you got to be radical with it, meaning be transparent, okay? Because there's too much transparency too. Sometimes there's too much. You need to have the appropriate amount of transparency in order to communicate what people need to know to get their job done. And you probably got to make sure they know one level above their job. They need to know one level above their job. They need to know side, their adjacent divisions, adjacent teams, what they're doing, so they understand fully what's going on, why they're doing it, and how others are doing it, so they can help as a team, help each other as a team. Don't just live in the stovepipe where I know only this is all I know. I see life through a soda straw. You're not going to help anybody, okay? When IBM got turned around, they did the same thing. They made sure it was a team concept. People had they took the blinders off from just my job and just my division, my business unit, to the whole company. How can I help the whole company, okay? Very important. Mindset will beat mood every time, okay? Your team will master the momentum swings that are happening and the chaos. They'll master it if you build a culture of the right mindset, like we're talking about. If you use this RP2EL, okay, the right people with the right mindset, the right process for planning execution, making ethical decisions under stress with imperfect information, and learning from mistakes, all right? It makes a huge, huge difference, okay? An example of this is Lincoln in the Civil War. Churchill also in 1940, right? He had clear eyes, a full heart, and he took action. He communicated over and over, we will fight from the beaches, and we'll fight in the sky, and we'll fight in the jungles, and we'll fight under the ocean, and we'll fight everywhere, right? But we're going to fight. We're going to keep on fighting. He would go on these radio talks, and he would say all these things. Lincoln was great with writing, communicating. He communicated with his decisions too, okay? But it makes a huge difference. You need to be able to control your state, choose your mission, and move, all right? These practices throughout history, again, tying this back, this last one of resilience and ferocious optimism, you don't think that Abraham Lincoln was under a lot of stress? You don't think he had to be resilient? Look at the history of this war and the things he went through, okay? I mean, the Confederacy pushed all the way up to Gettysburg, right? They pushed all the way up almost all the way up in the north. Gettysburg was a huge deciding factor in the war. 1 million people killed, right? 1 million Americans killed. And it might even be more, all right? Correct me in the chat if I'm wrong there. But there's so much that happened. And then Churchill, they were ready to be invaded and taken over. They were bombed into the Stone Age by the Nazis in London. And he kept on going. You need to be resilient, okay? Whatever you think you're going through, I want you to remember this. Whatever you think you're going through, there's someone else who's been through it, probably even worse than you, and has risen up and gotten through it to have an eventual big success, okay? To get through it, have inner peace, have good health, succeed, okay? And so you're not alone. You're not alone in history. Struggle has been going on for a long time. As a business leader, okay, you need to understand, take these examples from history. Some of these examples were where civilization, society that people lived in was on the line. Pericles, you kidding me? The Spartans would kill all of them and enslave them. That's one example. Alexander the Great, his own generals were going to mutiny against him if he didn't give this one powerful speech, tying it all together with his vision. Everything was on the line, his whole life. Again, communication, leadership, all the things I'm talking about will save not just your business, right? They will not just save your career. They could even save your life someday. You don't know, as I'm giving examples. You never know what situation you're going to be in. But not to make it overly dramatic, but these are things you can employ right now, this week. You can take one lesson from here at least, or refer back to this video as much as you want, and I'll put the chapters in so you can see it, and incorporate this into your life as a leader. And I don't care how many people you have in your team or you don't. You are a leader of yourself first. You can step up, exhibit leadership behaviors, and then you will be put in a leadership position. And remember, why do you want to be a leader? Leaders have more options. Leaders get paid more. Leaders have more control over their future, okay? Leaders have more opportunities. Leaders get more respect. All these things. Leadership isn't easy, and it's not always fun. It's a tremendous burden at times. But again, that's why you're going to get paid the big bucks. So step into it. But you got to behave this way first before you get recognized as a leader, all right? All right, I'm going to take any questions you guys have. But as always, like I say, as always, believe in yourselves. I believe in you. Make yourselves better. Make the world better. Have an amazing, amazing Sunday and a crush this week, and go get yours. Great to have you guys here. Thank you so much for being here. And it's always such a pleasure. I appreciate you guys being here and letting me do what I love. All right, let's jump in the chat. Let's see what questions we have. Cool. Well, I'm glad you like it, Lisa. What questions do we have, guys? Throw them in the chat here. I'll hang out for a little bit, and we can talk some leadership. Tell me about some of your hardest leadership issues you've had, and we will talk about this. Okay? Or anything else you guys want to talk about. We'll see. That's right, Lisa. How you see yourself is the single largest factor. Yeah. Yeah. The story you tell yourself. There's an old story and a new story. You need to decide what you want your new story to be. Okay? You need to decide how you want to see yourself in the next year to 3 years. What do you want to accomplish? Who are you going to be? How are you going to handle stress, right? Be the hero you've always dreamt of having in your life. That's one thing. Be the leader you always wish you had. We'd say that all the time. It's tough. Stress comes. But spazzing out and getting emotional and not being effective isn't going to help you. So you really got, in my opinion, you got one choice. Be a good leader of yourself first, okay? And then set the example for others. Sometimes that means endurance. Sometimes that means taking the pain. You know, I'll do a Bible quote, right? Suffering leads to endurance. Endurance leads to character, and your character will lead to your destiny. So, you know, like I said before, I asked for strength and I was given hardship. I was given problems. You're going to get strong. You're going to gain strength through the struggles, okay? You will gain strength through the struggles. And there is no success without sacrifice. Mark my words. All right, put any questions you guys have in the chat. Put any questions you guys have in the chat, and I will answer them. Tell me, what have been some of your hardest leadership challenges you guys have had? Throw it in there. Let's see. Yeah, is it normal to speak business in family in the U.S. in the culture? It used to not be so much, but the culture has changed. And really, speaking business in your family, let's say immediate family, immediate family, brothers, sisters, mom, dad, wife, son, kids, husband. I think it's become more normal in an effort to educate people, okay? And if you don't know much about business, then it's okay. You can encourage people in your family to learn more about it, right? Money's a touchy subject because it's emotional, but a lot of people don't have a lot of financial literacy. They don't have it, okay? They don't teach it in school, really. I guess they're starting to a little bit, but they don't really teach it in school. Financial literacy is often on us. I encourage it. I encourage people to get financially literate and then have discussions with their kids and with their family, right? And I think it makes a difference, because you just think about it. The earlier you start understanding money and business and how to treat it, how to grow a business and what that's all about, the better off you're going to be. Have I ever battled depression and alcoholism? Yeah. I mean, I would say I definitely had abused alcohol for a while when I was getting out of the Marine Corps. Not easy. Not easy at all. But I currently, I don't drink. I haven't had a drink in about 7.5 months now, getting on 8 months. Just because I don't like the feeling. I got sick of not feeling myself and the energy. Okay. And depression, I mean, I probably would say I was probably depressed. Like, I don't know, I would say so, but I think tied to probably some post-traumatic stress as well. And then also a shift of identity. I think I was grieving the loss of my identity as I got out of the Marine Corps. It's a big deal. You're transitioning from what you knew, your network, your family, your friends, your identity as a warrior, to all of a sudden you're like out here like with, puppies and kids and I don't know, working normal, and you just don't feel normal. You feel weird. So I think it was probably a lot of different stuff, but yeah, I battled it for sure. For sure. I've definitely battled it. Alcoholism, I was able to beat it, but a lot of times I was using it to feel good like anybody else would, right? Alcohol feels pretty good. You have a couple drinks, but then all of a sudden, you keep drinking. And then I was eating a lot of food with it too. And it just wasn't a good combination. And I was, the next day losing my energy and my focus, and it's not good. So, I've made a choice not to drink because I think I'm more effective as a leader. I'm better for you guys. I'm more switched on, and it's better energy. And I discovered that, I don't really need it. So I'm not totally anti-alcohol, but I think I would limit it a lot, maybe limit it to the weekends and, only have 1 or 2. Don't get into it too much. Don't use it as a crutch to feel better. Or when you feel stressed, you're like, well, I deserve it now. That's where you start getting into more and more using it. So I'm going to tell you one thing I've found is the stress only grows. The stress doesn't end. And so what are you going to do? Just drink all the time forever, right? And so I think you got to find other coping mechanisms. Sometimes it can just be having time to take a break, having time to do something that gets your mind off things, working out, eating right. I'm going to tell you, when you take the stress of eating wrong off your body, you're going to feel better, right? Exercise is a big difference. Getting on a good nutrition plan makes a huge difference. So fitness, nutrition, I love what I do. I love my business. I love doing this with you guys. I'm super passionate about it. So for me, it's a joy, even though I work a ton, a lot. Okay. 7 days a week, but it doesn't ever feel like I'm working because I love what I do. And my personal mission is to be an inspirational leader to create positive, lasting change in the lives of others, and hopefully to serve and to help all of you to make a difference in your lives. And like I always say, that's it for me. So I just keep on doing that and build a business at the same time to do that. And so it serves both ways. Serves me, serves you, serves everybody. That's the plan. So hopefully that helps. But I will say one thing with the alcoholism, depression, when you don't have a clear purpose, when you aren't focused, when you don't have a compelling, powerful vision that gets you excited and makes you, gets you little butterflies, okay? Then you don't have a vision. You're going to drift and you're going to end up anywhere. That's where the alcoholism comes in. That's where the depression gets worse, okay? And again, when you focus on bad things that are going wrong, you're going to get more depressed, okay? You're going to expand it, accelerate it. You're going to intensify the feelings. You're going to intensify the sadness, intensify the depression because you're focusing on it. Instead, you got to focus on the vision and the tasks that you have to do to move from where you are now to where you want to be, okay? Whatever that is. And if you need to get help, you got to get help. I got help. I went through a serious program. Went through the NICO program, the National Intrepid Center of Excellence, okay? Great military program before I transitioned. Why? Because I needed it. That's why. Am I super proud to say it? No. But I know it serves, and it's good for you guys, okay? And it's funny, but after you go through all of it, I still do feel a little resistance to even talk about it. But I know it's important to talk about. I've been a tough dude my whole life, done a lot of crazy stuff, a lot of hard stuff. Been very tough in a lot of ways. And even for me, came a time when I needed a little bit of help. I was also in chronic pain. All these things come together with it, okay? So if you need help, get help. But I will tell you, I work on creating clarity and vision and confidence and overcoming stress and fear with everybody in my Ferocious Optimist coaching membership and community. We do those things there and we support each other, okay? You're always going to have someone to talk to there. All right, I coach you through DMs. You have unlimited replays in the coaching sessions. The live coaching session, we do what we're doing right now, but it's on a Zoom call. Okay, and on the Zoom call, we can talk. We can see each other. I can hear your voice, all right? And I coach one-on-one with people too to help them get clarity and confidence and vision. I've had plenty of clients who have been working with a therapist, plenty of clients who work with a psychiatrist while they're working with me. In fact, I've had one of the top psychiatrists in New York City who has a lot of celebrity clients will refer big clients to me. Okay, he'll call me up and say, Ben, someone's going to reach out to you. I can't say who it is, and if they reach out, then you'll know more. Okay, and it's, a confidential client. And people work with me while they're working with a psychiatrist, while they're working with a therapist. These things, because we do different things. They're complementary, but they're different. What I'm doing with you is rubber meets the road, vision, clarity, achieving goals, creating the new you. They're helping you deal with past stuff you can't get over. Okay, I can do some of that as well too. But we work great together. So if you're seeing a licensed therapist or a psychiatrist, psychologist, you could still work with me. You could still do great in my Ferocious Optimist coaching membership and community. Okay, hopefully that helps, guys. Hey, Kimberly, what's going on? Good to have you here. Okay, let's see. Let's see what we got here. Okay, Kimberly, what do you do when you did have a purpose at work and you did add value, but they keep knocking you down to keep you in a box? You don't add much value. Hey, thank you, Becky. I appreciate it. So Kimberly, what do you do when they keep knocking you down? So I think it depends what the context is, right? It depends. First of all, I would say be professional. Number one, don't rely on other people's approval or what they can do for you for your identity. You got to protect your identity. Number one. Number two, remain professional, okay, at all times. And if at this time you can't do as much as you know you can, that's okay. You just do the utmost you can and ask where you can help. That's what I would say. And if they say no and they keep you in a box, but your job is still protected, you don't feel like you're up on the chopping block, then just be patient. Be patient, be professional. Find other ways that you can contribute, okay? Make sure your stuff is really tight. Make sure all of your work you're doing is top-notch, world-class, on time, on target, or early, right? Early and under budget. Show up early, show up early to work, stay a couple minutes late, and always make sure your stuff is turned in early and it's under budget, all that. No one can really complain, right? So, but if they're not letting you shine as much as you like, it could be something where when you have a sit down with the senior level leadership, you talk to them and tell them how you feel. Just, I would say it in a diplomatic way, right? So you don't, this whole thing about this, the radical this, radical that, radical candor. I'm going to tell you what, man, you radical candor your ass right out of a job. You could radical candor your ass right out of a freaking job. Be careful. I would say have candor. Yes. Speak the truth. That's helpful and useful for the team. But this whole radical idea, I think you're a dumbass. You're gone, right? That's radical. To me, that's radical, right? Well, that's not what we meant. Then don't say radical, right? You're going to create these idiots. I think you're a friggin' idiot. Every decision make you stupid. You're gone. You're gone. Radical candor. Why does it have to be radical? Radical is, right? Why not just do it? That's it. Be candid. Speak it, okay? So when you go in to talk to senior leadership, I would just say, I think I can help more. I can contribute more. How can I serve better? How can I help more? Where can I improve? What can I do more? I feel I can. Really? Okay. Well, maybe they'll give you some more. But if not, and if you're really dissatisfied, maybe it's time to look around for something else too, and that as well. Because again, one of the things I teach in my coaching membership, my community, I teach my one-on-one clients. I do it when I'm doing speaking engagements. I do it inspirational talks I give, all stuff like that. You guys can see some of the things I'm talking about if you watch some of my speeches on YouTube. The full speeches are posted there. I have little clips everywhere else, but full speeches are posted on YouTube, a couple of them. And it's in a playlist so you can play them and watch them. Okay, you don't have to hunt them down. Look in the playlist. It's in there. But one of the things I talk about are something I call the core human vital interests, okay? These are the core vital interests of a human being. And I'll list these really quickly for you, okay? So number one is security and stability. Okay. So security and stability, we all need. We have to know we're safe, we're stable, and we're not always under attack. No one's going to come in here and kill us. We're not going to die of disease. We're safe. Okay. We're stable. We have a fairly repeatable life. We're not always on the move all the time. Okay. Like the Marine Corps, we had to do it in training all the time. In combat too, but in training, they try to teach you how to live like a very unstable environment, to thrive in chaos. Literally, that's where I get it all from all my military training, right? From the Marine Corps, from Force Recon, from Marine Raiders, all that stuff. But really, these are core Marine Corps warfighting principles from history, like I was talking to you guys about, okay? The Marine Corps itself, the whole thing is pretty badass, honestly, for leadership stuff. And so, I think looking at that, number one, security and stability. Number two, economic prosperity. Economic stability, economic prosperity. To know that you can thrive and live and survive in today's world economically. We have an economically oriented world. None of you are running around with a sword on your back and a horse and like your shield and your bow and arrow and like, I need more food. Let's go Viking raid this place, take their food, threaten them or kill them and get more food and gold coins like it's a video game, right? This used to be, yeah. 500, 600, 700 years ago, that's what happened, right? If you look at the Western civilization classes, they talk about this stuff. Okay. But in modern era, we have an economically oriented world. So how can you make money and provide value to get value back to live? So economic prosperity, economic security. Number three, okay, and I'll say this, is respect. Respect to know that you matter. Okay, these are deeply powerful inside of us. To know that you matter within the group that is around you, within your relative group, right? Your tribe, your team, your family, your workplace, whatever it is that you belong to, okay? Know that you have respect, that you're admired, and that you matter, okay? That you're significant in some way, okay? Number four is to know that you have love, you have admiration, you have connection, that you belong. To know that you belong. You have belonging in a family, a tribe, a clan, a team, okay, an organization, something powerful that's bigger than just you, okay? But you have a place that you're not isolated, okay? Here's the thing. Psychological isolation equals death. That's what the fear of death really is, okay? If we're going to get really deep on this stuff I teach, though, okay? Because as a leader, you have to understand what drives people. Why are people doing what they do? When you understand why they do what they do at a really deep level, like I'm talking to you about right now, you're going to know how to influence them better. You're going to know what's really important to them, not your BS you're saying right now, okay? But what really matters to them, okay? And then after that is growth, to know that you grow, okay? Abraham Maslow talked about in his hierarchy of needs, and he talked about the fact that self-actualization is the highest level of the needs. So whatever a person can be, they must be. Okay, this is called self-actualization. So that's what growth is all about. So to know that you're growing, do you feel like you're growing at work? And Kimberly, this is also for you for your case right now. But do you feel like you're growing at work, or are you not growing? This is huge. You could say this to the senior leadership. I feel like I'm not growing anymore. Like I'm not. These things will help me to feel like I'm growing and that I'm learning. I want to grow. I want to become better. I want to become more. So you're signaling to him that growth is very important to you, okay? Especially if you've already met your economic security, economic prosperity, and you're good, you're making the money you want to make. Growth is a huge reason why elite people, elite performers, elite professionals, elite career people, elite athletes will leave because it's no longer about the money. They got enough money. They got enough, okay? Could they get more? Yes, but they're like, this is everything I've ever wanted. I'm good right now. But I want to feel that I matter. I want to be respected. I want to feel that I'm growing. There's a next destination. Who am I going to become in the future? Okay. What's my scheme in the offense later on? What's my, what position am I playing in the business later on? Okay. And then contribution is something greater than just yourself. Without me going on and on about this, but I teach this in my coaching membership. I teach this in my one-on-one clients. I teach it to my executive clients, executive coaching clients for executive leadership training. I do this when I work with teams as well too, when I'm teaching sales teams or corporate teams, whatever it may be. Okay. So if you guys are interested in learning more about that, just hop in my bio and you can apply for one-on-one coaching. Go to www.benpappas.com and you can see all the menu options there, or go in my bio on YouTube for my coaching membership and community, We teach that as well too there. I teach all those things. We talk about that. Each one of these is a different level of touch from me, right? The coaching membership, coaching community, we do one live monthly group coaching call together. And then you have the members area. You can replay that as many times as you want. We do a deep Q&A live in a private Zoom session, okay? I hang the presentation that I use to coach from. So unlike here where I don't have a presentation for you guys, I actually have a presentation PDF that you can download and use and accompany with the video and watch it. And there's downloadable content as well too. And then you have the community, the day-to-day interactions, Q&A with the community, and you also have DM coaching with me. So you can ask a question in the community, ask me the questions too, and I'll coach you through the DMs, okay? And then if you're on Instagram, we can DM through Instagram as well too. If you have any questions though, email me at ben@benpappas.com or DM me on Instagram. We can talk about all this stuff, okay? And Kimberly, hopefully that helped. Hopefully that was helpful. Yeah, I mean, if Kimberly, if that's what's going on, he still wants power. Again, protect home, take care of your business, do your best, ask where you can help. Ask how you can help. And unfortunately, one of the lessons I teach to my clients is to let them shine, okay? A person who's not a good leader will not let them shine because he wants to shine. He doesn't want you to shine, he wants to shine. That means he's afraid of not looking good, okay? So you also don't know what his interaction is with his boss, okay? It might not be good, or it might be he's afraid. So you could play it as well as that, like, hey, how can I help you? How can I help you? What we used to call this, we'd say, how can I take a rock out of your rucksack? We would say things like that. Hey, boss, I know you got a heavy rucksack right now. It means lots of problems, lots of things going on. How can I take some rocks out of your rucksack? What can I do to help? If you approach it that way, maybe he might be more apt to be like, okay, Kimberly, yeah, can you help me this way? And then don't take credit. Let him take all the credit, okay? You know, I mean, that's tough stuff to swallow sometimes, but let him shine. He might need that. This is when you're actually leading up, okay? When you're actually leading up, all right, if that makes sense. Does that make sense, Kimberly? Hey, thank you so much, Kimberly. I appreciate it. Thanks, Lisa. Hey, Amir, moonshine business, enormous profits. I believe it. I believe it. I believe it. Oh, yeah, rucksack. Let me get some rocks out of your rucksack. You remember that, right? What other questions do we have, guys? If I missed any questions, just please put them back in the chat here. I'm sure I missed some. I am sure I am. Sure I missed a couple. And if I didn't say what's up to you and say hi, I apologize. I've been on a roll here. Hey, I'm getting this tech to work though, huh? I'm getting the pictures up there, all stuff like that. I'm learning. It's funny. I was telling my son, I was like, hey, I'm really getting good with this new thing called, this new broadcast software. He's like, Dad, I've been using that for years. I'm like, oh, okay, great. I was like all excited about it. And he's like Nick, like you told me, technology. Ooh. So pretty funny. But all right, guys. Great to be here with you guys. If you don't have any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and close it out. The Bills play tomorrow night. Remember that? Root for the Bills. This last week, like I told you guys, they were just trying to make everybody, drop their guard a little bit because they're undefeated. They lost last week just so people don't think they're as good as they really are. And now they're going to turn on the turbos and they're going to crush tomorrow night, Monday Night Football. I'm super excited. All right, let me see. At least I got one more question. How do you see a person who is always late? How to deal with them? How to up so much? Yeah, I mean, this is a time management thing. Okay? They might not. It could be a couple things. It could be a behavioral thing. It could be an anxiety thing. It could be a procrastination thing. Procrastination is a derivative of fear. Okay? You're procrastinating on getting something done or showing up on time because you see doing the thing or showing up on time is more painful than spending a little extra time being distracted, right? So there are a couple things to do. One, you draw a hard line and there are consequences for it, okay, for being late. Two, you teach them how actually showing up 10 minutes early is being on time. I'll tell you how my college football coach, Coach Weatherby, I was playing, football for the Navy midshipmen, and I That's where I played college football for Navy. Okay. I think they're still undefeated now. I'll have to check. They're played yesterday. I didn't check, unfortunately. But Coach Weatherby would talk about, he said, men, to be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late, and to be late is to be forgotten. I've never forgotten that. Okay. Now, does that make me always on time? No, but I'm aware of it. And when it's a really important event, okay, I make sure I'm never late. And if I can help it, let's be honest. So sometimes it happens, right? Like sometimes I have a tech problem over here and I'm a couple minutes late when I start my show, so it's right. I don't want to be late, but all of a sudden I'm like, this didn't work the way I wanted it to. And so all of a sudden I'm 2, 3, 4 minutes late. Okay. So it happens. But if it's all the time, you got to shape into them and help them to understand the perception of people have with them when they're always late. Okay. And let them know that actually early is on time. And early could be 5 minutes early, right? Don't show up 30 seconds early, but like 5 minutes early, 10 minutes early, even better. And then teach them this. If you show up early 10 minutes, you can relax. You can get something to drink. You can sit there, be on your phone, and you relax. You made it. You're 10 minutes early, okay? So it is something that I think has to do with procrastination, anxiety, time management. Sometimes they don't realize how long it takes to do certain things. And another tactic is this: teach backwards planning. Okay. Let's say they have to show up by 6 p.m. Okay. So you got to get there at 6 p.m., right? Yes. What does that mean? At 6 p.m., the briefing starts. I'm just making something up. Okay. Briefing starts at 6 p.m. Are you briefing? Yes, I'm briefing. Well, then you better show up at 5:30, right? Let's say they're not briefing. Let's say they just have to show up, be in their seat by 6. They're going to start at 6. So that means by our rule, you really want to be there at 5:50. Okay. So you're in your seat at 5:50. How long does it take to walk from the metro, from the parking garage to get there at 5:50? Well, it's probably going to take 5 minutes, but it could take 15. Okay, so it's going to take 20. Now we're getting there at 5:30, right? You're showing up in the parking garage at 5:30, right? So it's probably going to take 5, but it could take 15. That way you're still early. Now we backwards plan some more. Okay, so 5:20, then how long does it take to drive from your house to there to get to the parking garage? Well, it's not going to take any longer than 30 minutes. Okay, so plan for 35. Boom, 35. Now we're at 4:55 we're leaving from. Okay, even 4:50. Build an extra time. What if there's an accident? If this is a must show up thing, I'll tell you what was in the Marine Corps, they'd say, you should have planned for there to be an accident. There's no excuse. In the Naval Academy, they always tell us one of their 5 basic responses are 5 basic responses. Yes, sir. No, sir. I'll find out, sir. And no, yes, sir. No, sir. I'll find out, sir. And no excuse, sir. Okay, so 4 basic responses. All right. Yes, sir. No, sir. No excuse, sir. And I'll find out, sir. That's it. That's it. So no excuse. No excuse. There was an accident. I was late. Oh, well. Oh, well. You should have planned for it. You should have built in time for the accident, right? Now, don't get extreme. If it happens once, it happens, right? There may be an accident where they can't move for an hour. All right. But if they're 5 minutes late and they're like, oh, there was an accident, I feel for them. I feel for them for sure. But in these high pressure environments, and I don't know if you're in one of these, but a high pressure environment, they're going to say, too bad, so sad. You're screwed. And if you keep doing it, you're out. Okay. Or you're going to crush your reputation and eventually you'll be out. Or you'll be in the land of broken toys. They're going to send you your next job will be land of broken toys and you do nothing, right? You're handing out basketballs at the gym. Any military people know what I'm talking about. And if you were handing out basketballs in the gym, it wasn't because you were bad. No, it was because you actually were being given a break for how great you were, okay? Oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. All my Marines out there will understand. So let's talk about this. You got to backwards plan. Backwards plan everything, right? Like I'm going to do one of these shows. I have to backwards plan everything, right? Turn the camera on, get the lights on. Yes, I have lighting. Yes, I have all this stuff. I have a camera. I got to make sure I do a little rehearsal with the tech. Imagine that, what I didn't do Thursday. And that's why it flopped. Okay? I thought I knew what I was doing. I didn't. You have to do a realistic rehearsal. And then you will never be late. Okay? Lisa, does that help? Let me know if that helps. Coffee helps you sleep, the Diamond Dog. What? Hey, and Steve, you're asking me, what about weather? Weather can affect you. Here's the thing they found out, right? When I was going through that program I was telling you about, Steve, they talked about one thing. Okay, Steve, so they talked about weather. And with the weather, it could affect the way your eyes see, okay? Which for me, I'm not gonna lie to you, I had persistent vertigo for a while. I got some bang ups in my head, had some TBI, okay? I'm not gonna go into everything and why or what or anything like that, but it's just had some traumatic brain injury. How do I know? Because they did scans and they told me about it, and the doctor came to me and scared the life out of me. I'll tell you guys that story another time. But so they taught me that sometimes the weather can mess with you. There is depression from weather, okay? I mean, why is California so freaking awesome? Honestly, it's always sunny. Always sunny. You wake up as a boy from Buffalo, a kid from Buffalo, New York, which is the greatest city in the world. Let's just be honest. Greatest city in the world. Best weather, best food, best people, best friggin' football team. Let's go. Okay. Anyway, just so we make that clear. Now, as a kid from Buffalo who experienced darkness, it was like we were in the north from Game of Thrones. Okay. So you basically had like you're in Alaska, darkness from November, from Thanksgiving until June. Okay. Where it's like, it would snow in freaking May in Buffalo. I'm not kidding you. Many Buffalonians, you're watching this, put in the chat if you rewatch this on a replay. And let me know. Put in the chat or give me a comment. Tell me I'm right, because it's true. But you realize when you see sun all the time, wow, what a difference that makes. So Steve, for sure, 100%. It can mess with you, okay? You do. Steve, you live, let me see. You live near Corning. You know what I'm talking about, dude. You know what I'm talking about. Super cool area, beautiful. Upstate New York is beautiful. The seasons are beautiful, and they got the Bills, let's be honest, and they got chicken wings, and they got the best pizza in the world. I'm just saying, okay? Great food, great people, awesome people. But it gets cold. And gets dark and gray, okay? It's not like the happiest land, okay? It reminded me of the North in Game of Thrones, right? He abandoned the wall, but father, he's a good person. Off with his head, right? Zombies up there in Canada. No, I'm just kidding, Jasmine. No zombies in Canada. Beyond the wall, across Lake Erie. So all that stuff. But the Finger Lakes, yep. You're going to have some lake effect snow coming soon. Is it getting cold there now, Steve? It's got to be getting cold. My mom's up in Buffalo, so is my brother. I know it's getting a little cooler. Oh, yeah, you're from Rome. That's right, Lisa. You know what I'm talking about, too. So I think, but seasonal depression does happen, Steve, 100%. It does. You got to be mindful of it, and you got to realize. So for me, they would talk to me, too, that sometimes the weather would affect my eyes, which could make my head work more dealing with some vertigo issues I was having, okay? And so, but that can happen from stress as well. It can happen from traumatic brain injury. It can happen from stress. It can happen from the crystals in your ears. I suffered a diving injury as well, too. I don't talk about often. I think maybe on the war I might talk about once, but I was on a little diver propulsion device with my swim buddy. I'm a combat diver, Force Recon, Marine Raider, all that stuff like that. And we were doing something, and I was stupid in doing this practice dive we were on, okay, with a rebreather, oxygen rebreather system, the one you see like on TV that has no bubbles, all this stuff like that. We're down there driving this little motorcycle around underwater. Super cool. Little propulsion device. And I just couldn't clear my ears. I was stupid to be diving, but I blew my ear out basically. And I came up, I took my mask off. I'm my dive buddy. Super cool dude. Awesome Marine warrior, Master Guns Geiger. Ron Geiger looked at me. He's like, whoa, we got to get you to the chamber. He's like, you okay? He's like, you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm good. I had blood streaming out of my nose. And so they took me to the chamber and pressed me and all this stuff like that. But I was okay. It's just, I couldn't clear my ear, and I went down, and it hurt so bad. And we were going down to depth. It hurt so bad. And all of a sudden, I heard psss in my left ear. And I was like, oh, I feel better now. So I continued the dive. That's when it's stupid to be so tough, okay? That's when it's stupid. I should have said something. But instead, I was like, no, resist to my utmost. Resist to everything I have. And it cost me my ear, right? And so I was in a hurt locker after that for a bit. But I've overcome a lot of that because neuroplasticity. And so, I think my ear healing, I don't know, like the window in my ear, they said was impacted, but it's healed. I was very lucky. A lot of people don't. They get persistent vertigo for life. I had it bad for a while, and then every now and then I had it, but I've been good. So, but they told me that the weather would actually affect me, and sometimes I might feel weird when I'm driving, and so yeah, Steve, I'm giving you a long-winded answer, but that could affect you too. So seasonal depression, but then also, it can mess with your eyes, the way they see, which can mess with your head. And if everything's not clicking right, you could feel more depressed or you could feel dizzy, things like that. Okay. Hopefully that helps. All right, guys. Let's see. Yeah, for sure, La Diamond Dog. That was not smart. I made a bad move there. All right, guys, I'm going to punch out here. It is 6 p.m. Eastern time. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for letting me do what I love. Hopefully it's made a difference for you. Like I said, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share. I will put the segments. I know I owe you guys the segments from Thursdays, Fridays, and today, so I got a lot of work to do. But I will put the smaller segments, the bite-sized shares, so you can share it with people. But please share it. Let's keep growing this thing. And if you felt like it hit you and it resonated with you and you got something out of this, please, please, please share it so we can grow this channel to serve more people, help more people. And like I always say, make yourself better, make the world better. Have an amazing, amazing week. I will see you all later in the week, okay? And go get yours. Let's go.